I set out on a journey to try to create the best archer build that I could come up with. And it took a bit of trial and error because I didn't really know what I wanted when I was starting this. But after trying it out and learning this character and figuring out what skills I want to use, I think I have something pretty great. I'm going to show a purple kit here because this is what I would consider to be the peak build. But if you're going to run blue, it is slightly different, and I'll go over that in a second. But what I got here is basically I maxed out range. This is super valuable because when you are building towards a range kit, okay, if you don't make it to level 7 or level 6 or level 5, you're going to lose out on the actual effective range buff, which is very strange to me. So it's very important that you get this up there into those higher numbers because it is going to give you that range buff, and it's also very good for just raw damage. Then I also did Valor. This is just so that my basic arrows hit as hard as possible. The goal of my build here is to be able to stay back from the fight and hurt people and potentially clean up kills that my teammates are trying to get, and also convince the enemy team to back off of my teammate if I need to. The next thing is elusive. There's a good reason why I chose this. This is similar to my Shadow Strix strategy, but the end goal here is I want to be able to dip and dodge my way out of situations, and having elusive at max level is very, very good for that. Focused is another one that's very important. You could switch up and boost this a little bit more if you wanted to. You do get a movement speed buff if you make it to level 5. That is very nice, but for me, I was more worried about the charging speed, which essentially just makes it to where my arrows are fully charged a little bit quicker. I have Aegis on here. This is simply so that if for some reason I am getting attacked, I have a little bit of extra defense. This is beneficial. It gives me a chance to be able to utilize my elusive perk and get away without getting killed on accident. I wouldn't say this is mandatory, but it's nice to have. Then we have Fervid. The reason I chose this is because in most fights, I'm going to be away from the actual chaos of the fight, and I'm going to have most of my health. One thing I noticed when playing Archer is that I don't use as much heals because I'm not going into the middle of the fight or taking 1v1s against melee characters. This is very good because since I'm going to have above 70% health a lot of the time, that extra damage is nice to have. Seamless is great because I have a bunch of different arrows, which I'll go over my skills in a minute. But the arrows that I'm using, they're very valuable. And there's times where certain arrows are very important and I want to be able to use them, so getting them back as quickly as possible is very, very good. I wanted to focus a little bit on cooldown reduction. So the last thing we have is Swift, which basically makes it to where whenever I'm trying to aim at somebody, I maintain my movement speed. If I don't have this, there's a pretty significant decrease in how fast I move whenever I'm trying to aim at something, and it can kind of suck, especially if I'm trying to get an arrow off while also trying to back up or move forward or get myself into a better position. So I wanted to put some stats into here just to make it a little bit better. If I'm running a blue kit, I'm going to completely sacrifice range. I'm not going to bother with it because I'm not going to pump that much into it to get it to the point to where I actually get the buff for range. And I will usually take that and put it into some of these other skills that are a little bit more valuable, like Focused, Seamless, and Swift. Therefore, I'm not wasting my points on something that's not going to give me the full benefit, and I can focus on making other things a little bit better. So now we're going to move over to the skills. This is something that I really did spend quite a bit of time in the, firing range for the game, testing out all the different arrows and seeing what I liked. Before I get into this, I do want to mention the barbed arrow is very strong. So if you think that maybe you want to use this one, it's not a bad idea. Essentially what it does is when you hit somebody with it and they decide to dash, it's going to just do a bunch of burst damage to them immediately, and it's very good. So the first one I use is Bloodfly Arrow. Now, there is a perk for this that is incredibly important, and I'll go over that in a minute. But essentially what this is going to do is just damage over time. And if you hit a regular arrow after applying the bleed to somebody, it does a chunk of their health immediately. So this is my main damage dealer, and it's my way of really hurting people and making myself very dangerous for people to mess around with. And this is very, very good. So I do recommend this. Then we have the concussive arrow. The reason I like this, and you'll see quite a few examples in the gameplay of me utilizing this to get people off of me, but also to get people off of my teammates. If you hit somebody with this, it staggers them, and it also can knock them back. So this is very good for getting people to break away from you and giving you a chance to reset. And it's also very good for if your teammate is calling for help, you have an opportunity to be able to get that guy off of them and give your teammate a chance to back off, heal, and get ready to fight. Then I use the lightning arrow. Now, I don't see this used very often, which is fine, but for me, this is super good. I shoot the lightning arrow at somebody, and if I hit them, it will chain to the nearest enemy. And the reason this is so good is because in a lot of fights, especially if it's a team with a lot of melee characters, it's not uncommon for them to be bunched up in a group. So being able to shoot a lightning arrow into them and chain damage through them is very nice because it hurts the entire group. On top of that, there's going to be plenty of situations where somebody is injured and you want to be able to take him out, but you can't get a clean shot on him, but you can shoot his teammate who's near him pretty easily because your arrows do hit your own teammates and AI and everything else. So sometimes it makes sense to shoot his teammate and have that chain damage go and hit him, which might knock him and get him out of the fight. So when it comes to these over here, I use a frost mine, essentially. And you throw this down and it's a trap. It blows up and it freezes people. This is very good because there's plenty of situations where you can throw this down. And if you can immobilize somebody like that, it gives everybody a chance to do as much damage as possible to that person and potentially knock them. At the bare minimum, it can slow people down and give you a chance to break away, which, as you can tell, the vibe of this kit, similar to Shadow Strix, is that I want to be able to not fight if I am not in the position to, and I want to be able to get away from people that are dangerous and do damage from a distance. Same thing with this scatter shot. It's a very similar idea to the concussive arrow, except for it's just a straight up ability. If somebody's pushing up on you and you need a second, you could basically tell them to back the fuck up and you hit this button and they back up. Very, very good, very useful. It's also just a decent attack to have in general, so I tend to use it and I enjoy it a lot. Then we have this. This is rapid fire. This one, you can build around this a little bit more than I did and make it hurt a lot more. But in general, really what it is if you want to spam shots at somebody as quickly as possible, it's a good way to do that. This is very nice for securing a kill on somebody who's weak that you just need to put down really quick. I don't find myself using this as often because I'm more focused on cycling through these and making use of these. But there are situations where this is valuable. And so I kept it in here because I feel like it's not a bad one to have. Now we're going to move over to talents real quick. For the most part, a lot of charging speed, movement speed, lightning spread. It's good for that lightning arrow. This is the one right here that I found to be the most important. This is what makes it to where you sacrifice a little bit of your damage over time, but what you gain is a swarm stack. And when you stack up this bleed on somebody and you hit them with the regular arrow, it chunks their health. And I would rather be able to just absolutely obliterate somebody like that than get a little bit better bleed on them and maybe kill them that way. This is very, very nice. So definitely have this, and it's 100% worth keeping. Then we have these over here. There's two ways you can go here. Both ways are pretty valuable. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but I chose this because number one, I'm using all archer arrows. So this is very nice for that because this is for hunter arrows and it's not really going to benefit me. This gives me essentially a certain level of aimbot, quote unquote. It's really not that strong, but it is nice to just know that if I get that little marker on somebody, it's probably going to hit them where I want them to. And then here, this is the big one. Whenever I dodge roll, there is an opportunity for me to essentially shoot immediately afterwards. So that's essentially what I'm doing with my talents right here. We have this whole build built out, and I will say that this is 100% designed around the idea of having teammates. This is not a solo archer build. If I were to build solo, I would probably trade some of this out. But if you're playing in a team, this gives you a very well-defined role and makes you very, very valuable for your teammates and helps you clean up those kills and make sure that you're putting down damage while your teammates are taking the aggro for you. The archer is not somebody who should be running in there and taking on the aggro from the enemy team. That's not going to work out in your favor. You want to be playing back. You want to be trying to build up your stacks. You want to be trying to hit your shock arrows, and you want to be concussing everybody that attacks your teammates and yourself. At the end of the day, really, I feel like this kit, this entire build here, is meant to be an incredible nuisance. It can be very, very strong. If you guys enjoy it, please consider dropping a like. I would appreciate it very, very much. And I will catch y'all later. Peace, guys.